approach. At the moment, we're getting in full steam through to the session 1, which is digitalization. My God, I hate that word. Digitalization and the way forward. My first speaker is Captain Eugen Adami, a very good friend from Cyprus again. He's the managing director and owner of the Cyprus-based shipping company called Mastermind Group. In his long career as a captain also, he sailed on a number of ships, but I will only say a few things about the work he did in Cyprus. For example, he is one of the past presidents of the Cyprus Shipping Chamber. He is also a director of various Cyprus shipping and ship management companies, but also the chairman of the missions to seafarers in Cyprus. And also he is the vice president of CIMEPA, which is the equivalent of what we have here, Helmeva. Captain, the floor is yours, but you will get questions at the end. You have to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Andreas. Congratulations to Cyprus Shipping News for having your first international event in this beautiful venue here. I'm honored to address to you digitalization, transformation, from the point of view of a genuine seafarer and a genuine ship owner. It was my desire when I started as a cadet in 1976 to become a captain. And once I was a captain, I grew the desire to become a ship owner in order to add value with my education to the following generation. So that's my passion. It's shipping and all inclusive. So here we are. I'm talking today also on behalf of the Cyprus Foundation of the Sea, which is a cluster organization bringing together academia, industry, and the government with the higher view to amalgamate education and rules and regulation which shall drive research and development. So our today's topic is digital transformation, but how to do it in shipping. And the artificial intelligence is telling us that there is something which is called climate change, and maybe with our digital transformation as we have it in mind, we may enter into a conflict with climate change issues. So you are digitalization experts. I don't have to stay long on this slide, but digital transformation means much more than what many people imagine. It means that we change our cultural approach, change things which we have done for years, for decades, into a digital format that is not adding a bit of software, adding a bit of equipment in offices on board of ships. That is a cultural change. Digitalization itself means that we put procedures which we have lived through audits, checklists, reports into a digital format, i.e. in one and zeros. That is what it means. So how are we going to do that? Data will be key. The data volumes must increase if we want to go for a sustainable transformation. That is what happened to data volumes from 2010. An increase of data which is exponential. Every day, about 300 billion emails are being sent. And these are professional emails. This is not Facebook and Instagram, etc., etc. Professional emails. Every email is taking a little bit of energy, and energy takes a little bit of electricity as well. Autonomous driving of cars. The research has revealed that autonomous driving of a car for only 1 hour requires that car to capture and share data with the environment of 4,500 gigabytes. And that is only for one car to drive 1 hour autonomous. So if we go to mobility on the land-based industry and we think what will happen when all the cars drive automatically, we must understand there will be an additional demand of electricity. Data centers is the hot potato in the industry because data centers are growing exponentially as well. In order to host data, you need electricity, of course, to cool your computers, and huge buildings are being created to host these data centers, of course, in areas where electricity is cheap. Denmark as an example, Norway as an example, where there is hydrodynamic. But the cost to build this data center in form of CO2 emissions is huge. So we are putting data centers up in order to do our job later, but by doing so, we emit CO2. Digitalization has moved into banking systems, and it's widely accepted that people use cryptocurrencies. Only the Bitcoin needs as much electricity as a country like Sweden or Malaysia. Only the cryptocurrency needs as much electricity as the entire country of Sweden does. Internet. If we look how much energy, and this is not electricity, this is energy, the internet uses, where do you think the internet would be when we see China has the largest energy demand, US the second largest? Where would our internet be? Our internet would just be below Japan. This is all the energy needed to run our internet. So when we increase technology, develop new things, we must have this in mind, because these are CO2 emissions as well. So it is actually expected that by the year 2025, the internet will take up 20% of the world's energy consumption. There is a huge inequality in the use of energy between countries and cultures. The world average is 58 kilowatt per hour. Imagine the traditional light bulb of 100 watts. So the energy running on that bulb, and then you can compare it with people. So it would be 58 bulbs. This is the average. However, in the United States, it's 219, whereas in India, it's only 19. So if we compare energy, how much was used in Stone Age, when also people used energy because they were hunting, they were running, they were building their shelters. And in 2019, we added, of course, a mobility, and we added our lifestyle, our holidays, our vacations, our infrastructure. So, of course, there is an increase of energy. But how does it look when we break it up into countries? The largest energy consumer per capita, per person, are the United States, are our American friends. Some of them also show it in their body. They're very big. In India, however, it's very low. Now, do we believe that the Indian people, the Chinese people, and the people in the underdeveloped countries, they will always stay underdeveloped? Or do we believe in a fair balance of lifestyle between the participants and the population of our planet? Yes, there will be an increase. And our fellows in the developing countries will consume more energy as they grow. We believe that our population will grow to 10 billion people. We are already at 8 billion people, so we will grow more until 2025, most likely, until 2050. We will have most likely 10 billion people on our planet. That means the energy demand will actually increase sixfold if we allow the developing nations to consume as much electricity and energy as the Americans. Sixfold. Another item which I would like to address here is the dictatorship of data. We get carried away when we see what data can do. And when we start to run algorithms on the data and we come to predictions, we draw conclusions out of this. Some of the conclusions are to that extent that they really make you to change. But is that the change what is really necessary and really good for the situation we are immediately in? A small example of a data-driven exchange of information. A control center sends a message to the chief engineer because the control center has received data from a vessel that the exhaust gas temperatures are too high, and the conclusion of the control center is you have to increase cooling. The chief engineer replies, I'm very sorry, I cannot increase cooling because my vessel has grounded. Yeah? So just looking at data and putting some analytical tools on it is not sufficient. We have to put all the data together in order to do something meaningful. Here, of course, we should have avoided that the vessel grounds. Yeah? So we should have looked into a complete different part of our activities. Digital dictatorship is a danger, according to Mr. Harari, who wrote many books on digital dictatorship, and I can really recommend you guys, when you develop certain things, to study some of his books. Now, we heard from Mr. Efstradio that we have to reduce our CO2 emissions. We will have to pay for whatever we emit. And by extension, I must say, the ship owners will pass on these costs, and it will be the end user who will pay these costs. And the end user today is also paying the higher electricity bill, is paying the higher fuel bills. So at the end of the day, all these taxes and new things, what we add, will be borne by the small people. This we need to bear in mind as well. Now, this is our graph of emissions from 1750 until 2021. Actually, from 21 to 22, we have a drop of the emissions. We have a drop. And that drop is because of COVID. Yeah? COVID told us how to save CO2 emissions. Not the rules, not the regulations, i.e. the people themselves. Yeah? They travel less, they stayed at home, and less emissions. Now, but look at this exponential increase. This is our lifestyle. This is how we have lived, how we have consumed the resources of our planet, translating into CO2. Little bit of history, why all this exponential thing has happened. In around 1830, the world ended slavery. In order to end slavery, somebody or something had to do the work, so the universities were charged with technology development, research and development. So the people referred back to the known technologies like steam, electricity, the batteries, Mr. Efsadio, they existed already at that time. You will bring them back, this is great. However, the first car was an electric car. The industry, however, decided electricity is not so sexy. We earn more money with oil, so build combustion engines. End of slavery, beginning of the industrialization, and then we had Greta Thunberg saying, hey guys, we cannot continue like this. After that, there are tipping points defined by the scientists. Tipping points are points when you reach that one, you cannot return to normality. Tipping points in the sense of climate change. We have 5 from 16 tipping points breached. And that means global warming cannot be stopped anymore. Global warming is a fact. The 5 tipping points which are breached is the Greenland ice shield, which is the battery for the Gulf Stream, the West Arctic ice shelf, the amount of dead corals in the tropical reefs, and the depleting of the permafrost in the northern areas, as well as the diminishing ice in the Barents Sea, which makes it possible to have all year round now navigation from Europe to the Far East via the north of Russia. These tipping points are breached, so we have to live with the climate change. We cannot anymore say there is technology which will combat it. No, our planet will get warmer, and we have a responsibility to live with this and to contain the damage as much as possible. This is a small graph which shows us what we have to do in shipping. Of course, we cannot do business as usual with our emissions, so we have to act, and the IMO has acted many, many years ago, and the Europeans have acted many, many years ago. This is not unrecognized by the regulators. So we have solid and robust measures in place to not have business as usual, but to follow this curve in 2 steps. We have our energy efficiency measures, and then we go into further reductions with alternative fuels, new technologies of ships. But this would be necessary if we want to keep the pathway of 1.5%. So we are not there, we are somewhere here, and please acknowledge that our planet will get warmer. Now, what's the lifespan of one of our ships? It's between 20 to 30 years. So if we put up a new building today, this one will be delivered to us in 3 years' time, because until 2025 shipyards are full, and then the ship has a lifespan until 2050. We don't have today the building rules, the construction rules in SOLAS, which will cater for the alternative fuels. We don't have it. We don't have the section in SOLAS of how to deal with batteries, how to deal with hydrogen, how to deal with ammonia, how to deal with methanol. But we should have the vessel in the water in order to do that. So we have to catch up with rules and regulations if we want really to have sustainable ships of a high magnitude to make a meaningful change with our CO2 emissions. So the warning is there. We will breach our CO2 goals given by the IMO. And that means already from now we have to do more, as Mr. Efsadio also mentioned. So we have to go into alternative fuels. There's no doubt about it. We have to set up the regulations for this. We have to create the infrastructure so that that fuel can also be widely available. And we need training of our seafarers. Countries worldwide commission studies. There is research and development with many, many universities available. Very recently, the German government released their study on the future development of fuels and rules and regulations. And there are 12 findings. The first finding is that we have to adapt new rules and regulations for the construction of ships to cater for the alternative fuels. Item number 2 is to create training for seafarers, for office personnel, in order to make the change possible. Yeah, because in Germany, the maritime education did not include the chemistry of the new fuels. So the knowledge of the industry is not there to be sustainable. There are a few experts, but they are not enough in order to sit down and design with the shipyard the new vessel to come. There is not the knowledge within the companies to run these vessels. So training, 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 and regulations have to come. That means we need a collaborative attempt, we need innovations, we need incentives. Thank you very much, Yanis, that Cyprus is already in the forefront to make these incentives available. We have to look at what is the end result of a new technology, not only with regard to how much does it cost, but also how much emissions will that entail. Yeah? A windmill is a renewable energy source. It's a beautiful tool. But the energy to build a windmill, the energy to transport a windmill, to erect the windmill, to maintain the windmill, and eventually to recycle the windmill is so much CO2 that it is almost the same as the windmill saves. We need to bear in mind our total CO2 bill when we create new things, because it's not the tax, it is a global warming which we want to contain. So we need to think deeper. How much is it from the well up to the wake when we drive into rules and regulations? We need to harmonize technology with nature. And that is possible when we adapt a new lifestyle from a linear economy, which we excel since the Stone Age until now. We are on a linear economy, yeah? But we are not sustainable. So we have to reduce our waste. And we can only reduce our waste meaningful when the waste becomes part of our recycling. Meaning we should not throw away things. We should keep our cars, our trains, our ships somehow in the system, so that a total waste does not exist, but a minimum waste. And that minimum waste maybe can be used to create energy again. In the 50s, the world went for plastic. Plastic was the most sexiest thing. It was the best thing. You could do everything with plastic. Today we realize it was a huge mistake because we don't get rid of the plastic. The plastic today is microplastic. It is in the oceans. It is in the fish. We eat it. And we know we cannot get rid of plastic. A windmill, sorry that I pick on the windmills now, but the windmill blades until today cannot be recycled. All the windmills in the world have blades which we can today not recycle. We have to throw them away. Solar energies, solar panels, great. Solar technology, renewable energy, fantastic. Problem is only, there is no plan for recycling. It's toxic. Yeah? So we should not make the same mistakes we did in the 50s when we embraced plastic, when we embraced asbestos. We should think deeper what we really need for our lifestyle. And the circular economy is a beautiful tool forward. The oceans are the cradle of our lives. Let's protect them. So I would like to conclude that it is worldwide accepted by governments and academia and industry that the technology today does not exist to combat climate change. The technology does not exist. It needs to be created. Therefore, more research is needed to develop alternative fuels from well to wake, which combat and assist to keep climate change at bay. Training must be developed for the industry to handle these new technologies. Then we need a scalable infrastructure to distribute the fuels. For this, new shore installation must be built, new bunker vessels must be built, and a fuel directive must be issued. Yeah? Ships do not have fuel directives. We only have a very basic ISO specification, that's it. How we get that fuel according to the ISO specification into our tanks on board of the vessel, totally not regulated. We regulate how to build the main engine, what fuels have to be, what springs, we have a technical file, we have all this, but we have no regulation for our fuels. We need the new technologies in the mind of a total energy balance. And we should, in our new artificial intelligence, consider that it is not only task-driven. We should also be open to take decisions from other measurable points. And last but not least, the society, we all should consider that if we want climate change to stay at bay, maybe we have to think whether it is the correct thing to eat the steaks from Argentina and to have the Christmas turkeys from somewhere all over the world instead of what is in the garden next door. Thank you very much, and I apologize that I was a bit long, Andrea.
Thank you, Captain. If I may reverse back to your words, which are really, you remember last time we met, we had a different opinion about statistics. Today, I agree with you 100% because it's about the reality. One of the things that the captain highlighted today to us is the fact that it's not shipping that produces the CO2, it's the demand of transport. So if we do not want things to move around for no reason, I mean, for example, we have lots of water. Why should we always import water from different parts of the world? So when we say shipping, you should reduce your carbon footprint, we have to also think, people, reduce your own carbon footprint about where you import things, why you want to import them, and when do you want them. But the reason I stay with the captain here is to ask you, do you have any questions for the captain? Yes, please. Can we have a microphone, please?
Thank you. My name is John Patignotis from Caras LS. Thank you, Captain, for your presentation. And I have a general question. Do you believe that we need more energy or we need a borrow from Earth in order to cover the needed energy? And if you make a borrow, how we can repay this? Thank you.
If I would have the answer, I would be most likely next to Bill Gates. I don't have the answer. I believe we do not have the energy for regulatory reasons. We can see this now, what is happening in Europe, the huge debate, do we offset the missing gas from Russia by running the atomic plants longer? Do we bring gas from all over the world? We have huge discussions in the EU how to handle this little thing. For me, this is a little problem, but we don't really come to quick solutions. We come to solutions which will cost the end consumer, the small people, a lot of money. And we need new resources for this, and particularly in shipping. The only solution, as Mr. Efstradio said, is the alternative fuels. We cannot put nuclear reactors on ships. We cannot put sails on board of ships in order to do the same transport load what we are doing with the combustion engines. We can simply not. The world population continues to grow the next 30 years. And that means the transport load ships have to do continues to grow. So we need more energy, beyond any doubt. And there are lots of discussions to let the ships steam slow and to introduce new measures. Yes, but will they do the job? I doubt. So we need more research and development. That's my conclusion. We need more university job done. And for this we have to be open, and we must at the same time consider that any new thing needs also new regulations, hard regulations, how to handle a hydrogen main engine on board of ships. So if this is what Europe wants us to have in the next 5 years, tell us how to do it. So then we can go to the shipyards, and the shipyards can start to build the ships. But when we don't have these regulations, we cannot do. So we have a problem, and the only solution is, guys, come together, put your bright ideas into your alumni with your universities, create startups, do new things, and help governments to regulate you. That's my answer to it.
Thank you, Captain. Any more questions? Final word from me is think outside the box and have a holistic solution and don't do piecemeal regulation. We are trying to fix one thing and we create another problem. That's exactly the message you wanted to say.
Right. Correct.
So thank you very much, Captain. Give my captain a nice round of applause.